Oh, enough of that, for heaven's sake. Hi, everybody. I'm Russ Kane. Welcome to the Midday Show. I just thought I'd play the Marseillaise because the French not having a good time of it. But then they're French. So apart from François Pascal, not our problem. That's the way I look at it. They're getting a right old bashing. How are you? Everybody all right? Sunny day. Lovely. Now you're wondering, where's the gang? Where is the gang? Well, I'll tell you. After this delicious cup of coffee. Hello, I'm Kenneth Moore. Do you remember I told you that if I ever found a more mellow, smoother cup of coffee, I'd let you know? Well, I have. It's Bird's Eye. It's not. It's from the Algerian coffee shop in Soho, where I ground the beans. Anywho, Robert Van Buren. Hello, Russell Phil. Nice fellas. Yes, well, Phil. I get a phone call. Right? Just before the show. Oh, hello, it's Phil. Ooh, look at my cravat. Ooh, I'm wearing a waistcoat. It's 800 degrees out there, but I'm in a three-piece suit and a cravat. He's been called into a meeting. Apparently, Rupert wasn't happy with the shine on his car. There's been a meeting about it. Anyway, so Phil will be joining us in, 10, 15 minutes, who the heck, whenever he rocks up. So, now you'll hear that. That is another fly that died. Yeah, there's a big, where I'm broadcasting from, it's got a big sort of industrial fly. You know those violet lights that they violet? Yeah, kind of violet-y, mauvey lights. And then you hear, and Jeff Goldblum dies again. And well, that's how it is. They're flies. We don't like them. Anyone keen gardeners? You enjoying the garden? Anyone not got space? What do you do? I'm curious, because when the weather, for the 2 days of summer that we get, when it's nice, where do you go? Do you go to the park? Do you go around to a mate's? What do you do? I had a flat with no outside space, and it used to drive me crazy. I dreaded the summers because it was like, just sit there. There was a tiny balcony, and it was on a really busy road. So it was like, trying to have a quiet drink on the North Circular. If you don't know what the North Circular is, if you're watching from America, it's a horrible road, which I'll probably be on later today. Now, much happening. Whom amongst you watches the news? And whom amongst you avoids the news like the plague? Yeah, I know I'm broadcasting, but, man, I can't take it. Can't take it. Yeah, I have had a haircut. All right? It's okay? Did you get the gang's approval? Is it all right? I went yesterday. Had a big kind of clean. I'll come up to the news in a minute. Had a big day. Well, big for me. Went to the dentist. All okay. Then went to see the hygienist. All okay. Well, for British teeth, it's as good as it's going to get, right? And then I went to get my hair cut. Here's a word of advice. Little word of advice. I go to a local barber's. And Jeff Goldblum again. When I go to the barber's, right, the team is made up from people from Iraq. I'm not making this up. From Iraq, from Syria, and from Iran. The boss is Iranian, right? It's a local barber. They're excellent. Here's the thing, right? When they're sort of smoothing out these little bits here, and they've got a cutthroat razor to your throat, don't discuss the Middle East. That is my tip for the day. When you have an Iranian, Syrian, or Iraqi barber with an open blade, keep the conversation light. Never the thing they always ask me, because there's a rotation of this team, and they're all I think they're great, by the way. And they're all yakking away in whatever different languages. And a lot of them are talking in, is it Kurdish? Help me out. Kurdish, I think, right? So I have no faintest idea what they're saying. They're probably saying, shall we kill him now? I don't know. Or maybe they're saying, what a handsome guy. Somewhere between the two lies the truth. So they always say, where are you from? And I go, here, London. No. Where are you originally? Notice I'm not doing the voice, God forbid. Where are you originally from? London. I was born in the Lindo Wynn Paddington Hospital, right? I've always lived in London. Oh, are you sure? Are you sure? No, I made it up. It was a conversational gambit. Of course, I'm from London, London born and bred. Apart from the years I lived in America when I was working over there. Anywho, right, news. It's enough about my barbers. They're very good, very efficient, do everything. So, do you watch the news? I can't bear it. I don't watch the news. Can't stand it. It puts me in the world's worst mood. TV was on, news was on. Sod that. Gone straight on to Poirot. ITV3. It's on in the morning. Marvelous. Poirot. David Suchet, the best. For that freshly brewed aromatic aroma experience. So, do you think I drink too much coffee? Could be. So, Phil will be joining us now. Big disappointment, especially for Lloyd Beanie. He won't be watching because he'll be fast asleep because he's in Los Angeles again. No Chantel. And I will tell you why no Chantel. Because when she's due to be on, she's at about 35,000 feet. Seriously, I don't know where she's going. She's going on one of her travels again. And I'm getting ready to go somewhere because I've not been away. Last time I was working in America, and that was 6 years ago. 6. So the last time I went anywhere, literally anywhere, was 6 years ago. And I'm completely out of the habit of traveling, of holidaying, and I'm a bit weird, excuse me, when it comes to traveling. I hate airports. I hate the whole thing. Sends me into a tiz. And I don't know how Ray Gelato does it because he's on the move the whole time with the band, and it's tough. So, not been away 6 years, and I'm thinking, yeah, but then I don't know, where would I go? To hell in a handcart. No, where would I go? I don't know where I'd go. So I'm weird. I'm no good on a beach. You know, I get down to the. Let me run this by you. See what you think. Right. I get to the beach. It's like a gazillion degrees. You're scorching everything across the sand, recreating Lawrence of Arabia. And then I sit. And then after about 3 minutes, I go, I'm bored. What the hell? I'm bored. What? I'm just bored here. I'm sitting under a parasol because I never sunbathe. You know, I'm trying to get as much shade. What am I going to do? I've seen the ocean. It comes in, it goes out. That's kind of it. So that's not for me. I don't like sitting by pools. But if it's private, okay. But I got a thing. Anybody who knows how I travel on the tube will understand this immediately. Immediately. Like sitting surrounded by other people. God damn. Jesus. You know, they put some lotion on me and you see other people slathering each other up like slabs of bacon. Oh, Christ. Elizabeth Green, who's watching live in New York City, coming to London. And yes, you're right about the airports. They suck. Although, one great thing about airports is duty free. It's not real money. It's holiday money, right? And you never knew you needed that extra pair of Ray-Bans for 200 quid. You didn't know you needed it, but suddenly you do. Or there's a shop, right? And you go and you think, I might just need those extra special continental plugs. You won't need them, but you're going to buy them anyway. And that's a good gadget. And it's got wires and it does shit. I'll get that. But it's the good thing. It's not real money. It's holiday money. And it's not a problem. Except when your credit card bill arrives and you go, what? Oh, my God. Where would you like to go most for your holiday? Where would you like to go most? Or where do you go? It was my hygienist came up with the, God. Like she's into cars. No, she's into cars that smell nice. No, work out the gag yourself. That's where I buy all my Tom Ford. Ooh, never spend that much elsewhere. No, Tom Ford's like, I don't know, about £1 billion in them. It's a fortune, isn't it? I once bought a bottle of Creed back in the day when I had money. God almighty. And I find the smell just goes after about 2 minutes. Lynx, £3. You're rocking. So, questions. Where'd you like to go? Smells nice though. Well, Tom Ford, yeah, should for that money, for God's sakes. Failing that, a little bit of 4-7-11 behind each year. That'll do nice. So, where do you like to go? What do you like to do? My hygienist, this charming woman, and they go into the wild. Couldn't think of anybody less likely, but she goes into the wild. They've got a van. They shove everything into the van. I love it. Not a camper van, a van. And they head up to the wilds of Scotland. So it's so far you have to stop overnight in the first part you get to Scotland. And then they go as far west. I can never work it out left or right. They go as far west as they can on Scotland with nobody. And they fish and hunt and are self-sufficient. Fantastic. That lasts 30 minutes. 30 minutes. My idea of hunting is going to Waitrose. I don't even go to Waitrose. I go to Lidl or Aldi. Because I like the middle. I like the middle of Lidl. 28 tons of shit you never knew you needed. It's like duty free, but a lot cheaper. It's great. I might need wading boots. What am I going to need them for? A tent. Never going to need it. Looks good though. Middle of Lidl. Marvellous. You don't get that in Waitrose or M&S. Don't get it. It's a potpourri. Who the hell knows what you're going to get in the middle of Lidl? It's great. Anyhow, they go to Scotland. And the idea of peace and quiet would be great. You know, I'm a Londoner, so you're watching from all over the world. You've all got different places and places where you live and your lifestyles and everything. But my lifestyle is pretty, I try to keep it quiet, but, you know, kind of noisy because it's always urban. But the idea of being just on a lake, on a lock, beg your pardon, and they bring a little inflatable boat and they just walk from this hut or cabin or whatever the hell it is, and they go out on the boat and they fish, and there's lunch, breakfast, dinner, and then they hunt. God knows what, probably tourists. I don't know. I've seen too many of those films on Amazon Prime. But that's what they do. What a fantastic idea. Could you do that? Would you like to go like just middle of nowhere? I'd quite like, some of that has an appeal. I think where I'd most like to go would be back to Tuscany, where I used to go. Sadly, the place doesn't exist. I mean, the town doesn't exist. I mean, the place where I used to go doesn't exist. Too complicated to explain. Some people I knew had a little house. It was beautiful. Now they don't have a little house anymore. Anyhow, I like Tuscany. I like Italy. I like the people. I love the food. I like the clothes. I like the cars. I like the weather. Love the scenery. It's just lovely. It's not that far to go. You know, flying to Florence and just... oh, here we go. I knew this was coming. Wait for it. Ready? I think it all depends on who you're with. Yeah. Kind of. Look at that. That was what is that? That's a Mercedes AMG. I'm listening to it now. Yeah, I think it all depends on who you're with. Probably. Maybe you could be somewhere beautiful with somebody terrible and it's all ghastly. Or you could be somewhere ghastly and just having a hell of a laugh because you're with somebody who's amusing and funny and sweet. So where would you like to go? It's not a terribly difficult question, but play along. Bless you. Facebook changed their what the hell was that? No idea. Facebook changed their rules the other day, right? And you had to meet certain criteria. So we lost the Midday show, excuse me, on the dedicated Facebook page, which is the Midday Show Facebook page, obviously, so which I set up. And then I put a call out saying, hey, Could you help? Could you just like it, like the page, follow the page, blah blah blah. In 24 hours, we had like 450 new followers. Bless you. And today, I think we've hit 500. I should double check. I think we've hit 500. It's so kind of you, and I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much indeed. Marvelous. Do you ever try and watch? I often discuss this with Chantel. Do you ever try and watch some of the films on Amazon Prime? Holy God! Who makes them? They are just, I don't know how many films. This week, I have started, and after sometimes just up to 4 minutes, sometimes I get as far as 10 minutes, and I go, this is garbage. And I just go and watch YouTube, because on YouTube there's great stuff. And I am addicted to a show called Gutfeld, hosted by Greg Gutfeld. It's got a budget of about 3 and 6 and a sandwich thrown in if you're lucky. And it's now the #1 late night show in America. It started from nothing. It's beating Kimmel. I can't bear Jimmy Kimmel. If there's any more woke, his head would fall off. It's beating Fallon. I don't know who else does it. Who else does the shows over there? Stephen Colbert. And actually, I can't watch Kimmel anymore. Christ, absolutely. Elizabeth Green, smelling delightful with her Tom Ford. I never watch Amazon Prime. Forgettable. Yeah, well, it's not as good as Forgettable. It's unwatchable. I always think if you're going to make a movie, right, you're going to make a film, start with a decent script. Well, start with a good idea. That helps, right? 101 filmmaking coming up. Start with a decent idea. Then get a good script writer and write a decent script, right? And then get some people who can actually act. That would be a plus. You can actually act. Yes, Commander, I see it on the screen. Take action and evasive action. Action and I sit there going, Jesus, where do they learn to act? McDonald's. And then get someone who can actually direct a film. You know you're in trouble when it says written, produced, and directed by, and it's one name. You know you're in trouble. And the other time you know in trouble, see if you agree. You know you're in trouble when the credits come up and it says, a Fred Smith production, in associated with Joe Bloggs Media, and then these tiny little cockamamie companies, all of which are put in 3 and 6 into the budget as production companies. And you think, this is going to be dire. And I'm never disappointed. It always is absolutely bloody awful. And then you compare it with something fabulous like Only Murders in the Building. If you haven't watched Only Murders in the Building, you're missing such a treat. It's just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So why don't I watch the news? Can't bear it. I can't bear it. It is A, so depressing. Endlessly depressing. B, so much of it is absolutely made up bullshit. It's just factually incorrect. It is biased. It is appalling. I can't bear some of the smugness of the people. God, what is it? The news at breakfast on BBC? Jeez. I like Charlie State, but some of the others, holy God. Just want this big neon sign. I'm smug. I'm so pleased with myself. I just can't watch it. I get my news off Twitter. I can see what's happening. Speaking of which, yesterday, Donald Sutherland died. Worth saying, I think, some of the best films ever. What a legacy Donald Sutherland has left us. Across so many decades, you think about the movies he's done. Clute with Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane, she's back again, I see. So's Hillary Clinton. Jesus, they just won't die. Clute, Kelly's Heroes, which I loved. I still like Kelly's Heroes. It's so silly, but I love it. Dirty Dozen. Don't Look. Oh, God, the one in Venice. Whoa, the one in Venice with they think it's a kid wearing a red cagoule. With Julie Christie, was it? Don't Look Now. He's made so many brilliant films. Apparently, I don't know, he'd been ill for some time. There was a lovely post from his son, and you forget, because to us they're movie stars or whatever, but you forget they're someone's dad or somebody's grandfather. Or, there's always that. There's always the personal thing. Speaking of personal.
Oh dear, am I late? Hello.
Oh, not at all. I'm waiting for Phil, Dave. Go away. I'm waiting for Phil.
Oh.
Have you seen him?
Hi.
Oh, okay. So, was Rupert okay?
Well.
You still got a job?
I think just about, yes.
Jeez.
Not entirely sure. Hopefully that won't happen next week because we could be in a bit of a pickle.
I don't want to. Yeah, you will be. I'm doing a funeral next week. Listen. You
Me
are like the ravens at the Tower of London. You leave that certain tower by London Bridge Station, it's over. Finished. Done.
It is. I'm not going to lie. It is a bit hectic at the moment, but it's fine. I should be flattered. I'm very pleased that I have work. But
why? Well, obviously, aren't we all? Why is it that it's so hectic? Don't go into secret details, but I mean generally, why are you suddenly so busy?
Well, I mean, obviously it's an election period, which makes work instantly a bit more stressful.
But you're in Purda.
And no, I know, but what I mean is, it means that we have.
Can I explain what that means?
I would love you to explain what Purda is.
When an election is called, the broadcasters can't discuss in broad terms the election. They can't make personal comments. I can, because I'm not operated by Ofcom. Couldn't give a monkeys. We're uncensored. Say what we want. Obviously, not if it's going to lie.
Although technically speaking, social media is governed by Ofcom as well. Technically.
Yeah. How's that working?
I did say technically.
Oh, what a load of cack. How's that working out for you then? So am I right? Basically, the stations can't be seen to be biased. BBC can't be seen to be biased.
Not, I mean,
BBC.
I would suggest it's not quite as black and white as that as such. Okay. You're right. In broad terms, that's what it is. I'd say that sort of be slightly more pinpointing in terms of what we can and can't do. It's if we can't talk about, bearing in mind there are no MPs at the moment. Parliament's been dissolved. So everyone who ever was a politician is now, if they're standing, is a candidate. You can't talk about individual candidates.
Something that many are going to have to get very used to, not having a job, I feel.
You can't talk about individual candidates because then you could be seen to be breaching the course of democracy. So what we have to do is, if you do mention a candidate in particular and a certain constituency, is you then have to read out everyone who's in that constituency to ensure that it's as fair and as balanced as possible, and say, well, look, this is the constituency. These are all the people who are standing for it. You could vote for Conservative. You could vote for Labour. You could vote for, and so on, so on, and so forth. So it's kind of that. It's just about making sure we're very balanced. But we also have to make sure that we're logging everything that we do. So it's not just a case of literally just saying the list of candidates. We also need to make sure that every single guest who has been brought into the station to talk about this particular subject, or whatever the subject may be, is that we have to make sure that we're saying, right, which party are they from? Were they pro this party? Were they anti this party? Have we had enough pro of this party, enough anti of this party on stage?
What a bore.
It is exceptionally strenuous.
What a pain in the ass. And
so yes, I'm not going to lie, it's been very annoying recently, but we only got 2 more weeks to go and we can start breathing again, hopefully. So.
Well, we can start emigrating again in a couple of weeks.
Well, quite. I was going to say,
that's what we're
believe me.
It's going to be.
It's been nice living here whilst I've been here.
Yeah, it's been terrific. Cheerio. I'm actually thinking about it. I'm actually thinking, I kind of get to that stage and I think, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be? What do I like doing? Huge questions. And I think many people would be saying, it's a serious thing. In all seriousness, you think, I mean, you're younger than my kids, right? But I'm not. And
younger than 2 of them. But
I'm younger. You're younger than 2 of my kids and a bit older than the other 2. Here's the thing. You've got, please God, your whole life ahead of you and many, many years to come. I can see the finishing line. Whether you like it or not, I'm realistic about these things. So if I don't get
the finishing line, but you could go on for 20, 30 more years. You're stubborn enough.
I am a stubborn bastard, but that's not the point. The point is, I'm realistic. Having lost several friends in the last few weeks through bizarre circumstances, which I'm not going to go into. My thinking is this, right? I'm at an age now. So let's say if I get another 10 years with no health problems, that would be terrific. If I get another 20 years, that would be a miracle, right? Unlikely before the ice cream van, before something comes along. So I'm thinking, how do I want to spend those years that I may be able to enjoy? That's the point. Do I want to be somewhere kind of sunny and relaxed and just do what I like doing, which is this? Do I want to stay in the UK? Who knows? Who knows?
Yep.
I just
hear your cries, believe me. I am absolutely convinced. I've always said for a very long time that I will eventually not be in the UK. I don't know.
You won't.
I don't know what the time frame is, but I won't be here forever because I don't like the direction of travel. This country is not the country I grew up in. I'm very sad to see what's happened to it. And the truth is, I don't want to see it get any worse.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to be sort of grown up about it. And I can get into it because we're not governed by Ofcom. If you don't want to join in, Phil, I totally understand because of your professional other side of your life, right? I've never seen a government. You're faced with just the choices are just appalling, and it's become, Rishi. I couldn't tell you anything about him. Keir Starmageddon. I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything that comes out of their mouths. They're politicians. My fear is, I've said this before publicly. I will say it again. They use Rishi as they use Keir. They're interchangeable, aren't they? Really, they use Keir Starmer as the Trojan horse to get in, the acceptable face, and about 3.5 minutes later, they will dump him, and Angela Rayner will be made the leader, or they'll bring in some people from the outside who you've never heard of, who are make the radicals look like calm people at the Reform Club. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think all hell will break loose. That's my view. There's an alternative line of thinking, and I know, Phil, you're being very careful here. I get that. There's an alternative line of thinking that if Starmer's going to get in with the most huge majorities, inevitable. And Rishi would be lucky to keep his seat. I mean, the incumbent prime minister to lose his seat, almost unprecedented.
No, it is. It's never happened before.
It's never happened before, and it could well happen. That's the state, the parlous state they find themselves in, right? And the other thing, the other school of thought is once he gets in with a huge majority, he will get rid of everybody he doesn't like because he can do what the hell he wants. But their infighting will go on forever. They're incapable of being.
I mean, the only way I see this, I think what we have to also remember is that a general election is the time when we can have a bit of, if you like, a spring clean. In so much as that it is true that there will be a lot of new MPs. There'll be a lot of MPs who have gone. And as a result of it, the face of Parliament will look very different.
Yeah.
And I suppose it also just highlights that. How can I put this? I suppose the way I'll put it is that it will demonstrate that the British public has spoken in terms of what it thinks of the current group of. Well, I say current. There's not really a current because we've got a current government because they are by default they're still the government, but we don't have a current parliament because parliament's been dissolved. But if you have a look at the most recent batch of MPs that we had in Parliament, I think there would be a lot of muscles flexed by the great British public in terms of how displeased they are with the current collective of MPs. I don't think it's necessarily party politics because I think there are people on both sides of the political fence that there are people who are very unhappy with. And just because someone does say happen to be for one side or the other doesn't mean that their seat is automatically safe because someone else could come along. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so my point is that I think anything could happen and will happen. Am I concerned? I think everyone should be concerned at the time of an election, because one should never underestimate just how different it will make the country, regardless of who gets in. But I also believe that we just need to be aware that nothing lasts forever. And technically speaking, we are talking about an election that will last for 4 to 5 years, or sorry, an election that would determine the outcome for the next 4 or 5 years. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're stuck indefinitely with the parliament looking like that. So I think an open mind is needed, but I don't I don't deny, and I do realize there are a lot of people who are very worried.
And justifiably so. Justifiably so. You know, if you've got a party with that can't decide what is a man and what is a woman, Jesus, I just don't get it. And and I love the fact that certain candidates, and I'm going to step around this like broken glass, okay? Certain candidates are basing their entire campaign on something that's happening thousands of miles away that has nothing to do with Britain at all. It is hate mongering and stirring of the most pernicious order. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I have to say, actually, I think it is perfectly reasonable to say that I would love to see the rules change, that election campaigning can only be based on issues in this country. I know what people would say. They'd say, well, hang on a second, it does affect me because maybe I've got family over there. It does affect me because it means that we're seeing marches over here and people are unhappy about it. It does affect me because it means we're sending money over to help people we don't like who we're sending it to. But I believe that if you talk about electioneering, the priority should, and I can't even believe I have to say this, should be about this country and the benefits of this country or the needs of this country, not the needs of other countries, because that's pointless. What the hell? What on earth is that about?
Well, the nadir for me this week, and if you're watching in America, you've probably seen this. You may not have seen it here. There is somebody who I put my colors to the mast. I can't abide. I think they are a self-seeking, narcissistic. It's a man called Dylan Mulvaney who identifies as a woman. He was the one behind the absolute fiasco at Bud Light, if you remember, when they lost several $1 billion in 2 weeks in sales. Several $1 billion. All right. And they held a White House reception at the White House with Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States of America. Who was the guest of honor? You ready? This guy's hairdresser. This
Guest
man's
of honor.
The guest of honor was some guy with a beard in a dress, was the guest of honor at the White House. How can you take that seriously? What message? You know, I look at this crap and I just think, and she's fawning all over him. He's a freaking hairdresser who does the hair of somebody who's a man pretending to be a woman, right? It's not Danny LaRue either. And my thoughts are, put everything else aside. Putin, the Chinese, they look at this and they must be just thinking, we didn't even have to fire a shot. We didn't have to do anything. They've done it to themselves.
I'm sure they do.
They must be thinking that the West, they couldn't believe in their wildest dreams that the defeat of the West would be so easy. Not in their wildest fantasies would they think it would be this incredibly simple to destroy family life, destroy common sense, to destroy the power of the West. And they've done it. They've done it. It is game over. It's done. It's done. There's no point in pretending it isn't. That's how I genuinely feel about it.
Well, I am an optimist. I know that people don't necessarily sort of see an optimistic side at the moment, but I am primarily optimistic. And I'd say that I've already started to see people turn. I've seen the tide turn on this level of stupidity that you talk about. People were being very tolerant before. They were almost being understanding. Heck, some people were even going along with it. I never was personally. I've never seen anything other than a bloke dressing up, and I think it's ridiculous. But that's just my humble opinion. But in terms of this woke madness, where people are so afraid to tread on eggshells, and they're so terrified that the poor little snowflakes might melt if they even have the audacity to answer back, I am seeing people who I thought were like that starting to fight back, and that's a good thing. So it does mean the tide is turning. There's a long way to go. It's a terrible shame we let it get this bad, but it does give me hope.
There's a lot of things to dissect out of that. What upsets me is that the gay movement had made such wonderful progress. If you think how it was in the 50s or the 60s, how it wasn't that long ago when it was illegal and you would be arrested and all the rest of it. All right. And it made great progress, as it should. As it should. Let me be clear about that. But I think that the gay movement has been completely now overshadowed and inexorably linked with the madness. Okay? And that's, I think, deeply, deeply unfortunate, because you don't want it set back. You don't want it set back.
That's the same kind of thing, I suppose, with BLM, really, isn't it?
Oh, well, I was going to come on to that in a sec. But I mean, I've got relatives who are gay that I adore. I adore their partners, their husbands and their wives. I adore them. We are incredibly close. All right? They're not happy with it. They don't think this is great. A lot of my gay friends, they don't think this is great. They look at this and they go, that's nothing to do with us. This is not what we're about. That's what upsets me. I don't want that. I don't want it to go back to the 50s and the 60s. And your point about BLM, exactly the same. I think BLM single-handedly set back race relations 30 years. That's what I think. I don't know if Phil's frozen or is asleep.
No, I suppose I was just sort of taking in what was said and coming up with my response. I mean, for me, I agree wholeheartedly that it's the pendulum. It sounds so cliche now, but the pendulum has swung too far the other way. And this is the problem. We spent so many years trying to get it to a right place. We didn't recognize what the right place was. And I just don't get how people don't understand at the most basic level. The obvious thing to do is let people live the lives the way that they want to, but you must cater for the majority, not the minority. And it just seems to have gone too far the other way now. So when you see situations where people are crying out for gender neutral toilets and stuff like that, why do they have to call it gender neutral toilet? It's just a toilet. It's silly things like that. It's just a toilet. You don't have to call it gender neutral. There's absolutely no point whatsoever, no need for it. It's virtue signaling. It's stupid. It's pathetic. And it actually sounds insane. Is the only way I can describe it. So for me, if you have, let's say, I mean, this is a classic example at a building where I work, which I absolutely promise you is not where I am now. But it is another building that I work at quite a lot. I picked up on the fact that they were so worried that they didn't have a quote unquote gender neutral toilet that they took the disabled toilet
For God's sake.
and covered, no, get ready for this, covered the sign that said disabled toilet and put gender neutral toilet over it. And I said, now I need you to think of what that's going to do to people who are disabled. It will tell them that their needs don't matter anymore.
Precisely.
It will say that they're irrelevant, and that instead we've got to. And then, of course, we never thought of it like this. This is just.
Well, how could they not think of that?
And I said, no. I said it's not a terrible oversight. It's a stupid bit of virtue signaling. You don't need to do it. If someone is not happy about using it, and I'm telling you, it's for one person who works at this building. One person who works. Actually, no, I lied. 2 people right? For 2 people who work out of thousands of people who go into that building, 2 people, this is what they've done for. I said, I'm sorry, if those 2 people are not happy, then they use a toilet that they're happy to use, but don't start changing it for everyone else, because there are more people who are disabled than there are gender
And
neutral.
what was the reaction to your words of sanity? Did they get it?
Yes and no. I don't think it's been changed. I haven't checked it recently.
I'd have ripped the sign off.
I'm tempted, if I'm honest with you.
I'd just rip the sign off and go, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? There's thousands of other people and 2 of you.
But that's just one example. That's just one example. And I think what's curious is your analysis before, when you were saying about how much progress was made, was LGBTQ community, or the LGB, right? The LGB community as it was then. And I suppose that sort of where I think we've gone wrong is that people know, they learned the lessons. I think society, sorry to use the S word, did learn its lessons from the abolition of the illegality surrounding homosexuality. And I think people finally came around to realizing that it's not a choice. People live their lives according to how nature made them, right? Yeah. But where I think we've gone slightly wrong with this is that this is not about nature. This is about a decision. And what I believe is that people were terrified at the prospect of getting those 2 confused again. So we spent so many years, for those who were trying to overturn gay laws or homosexuality laws, to say, actually, no, this is not a choice. This is nature. This is the way we're made, can't help it kind of thing. Versus now, where actually it is a choice. If someone chooses to be gender neutral, that is exactly it. It is a choice. Biology states very, very clearly who is a man and who is a woman. Right? There's no confusing those 2 things. Now, I do not deny that once in a while you will happen across someone who is someone who's transgender. So someone who actually has been born into the wrong body. They feel they're born into the wrong body. And I've said a million and one times to anyone who is brave enough to go through the process of realignment surgery, they are a hero in my book. Because I don't think anyone makes that decision lightly, because they know more often than not it's irreversible. And they also probably know the stick they're going to get from their family and friends who've only ever known them as one way for a long time. And they also know how, again, sorry, that blooming S word, society is going to view them. So I think it takes a very brave person to actually deliberately choose to go on that path. But that's very different for someone who chooses to wear a dress one day and chooses to wear a suit the next day. Right?
Look, let's be blunt, because we can do that. It's the Midday Show. Let's be blunt. There is the world of difference between having one-way surgery, let's just say it's a man, and having all your male appendages cut off and removed, right? To putting on a wig and a dress. That is not the same thing.
And saying, this is how I choose to identify today.
Sorry, it's
absolutely not the same
thing. And I don't understand. One of the things about this born in the wrong body crap is this. I think there's a lot of people who are mentally ill. I've no doubt about it. I think they are mentally ill, and they have a whole raft of issues. I don't know what those issues are, but a lot of people have a lot of issues. And then somebody comes along and says, you know what? Tell you what your problem is. You know, you thought you were this, that, and the other in the psychiatry. You're in the wrong body. And they're so messed up. They go, you're right. Why didn't I think of that? That will solve everything. No, it won't. You've dealt with nothing. That's what I mean. I think a lot of that is what it is.
Yeah, no, it is. But I think we need to be very clear. There's a great difference between someone who's choosing to opt for fluidity, like what are the flaming hell that means, and someone
what does it mean?
It just means that they can't decide. They literally can't decide if they're Arthur or Martha. And I know it's sort of that's said in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of way, but it is kind of the truth. You know, I mean, all of this, you know, that's before we even gone down this ridiculous notion of they, them. You know, the pronouns. It's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. You know, and I tell you, for anyone who even has the audacity to say, you know, what are your pronouns? I say, if you're too stupid to know the answer to that, I'm not interested in talking to you. Genuinely, that's my response.
There was a very interesting question on social media. Would you work for a company that insisted you had your pronouns on a badge? I'd say fuck
Nope.
off.
Nope,
That's what
definitely
I'd
not.
say. Just get lost.
Absolutely no way.
It's nuts.
Absolutely
The only
not.
way
It's
this will
just
be
what's the
resolved.
matter with people?
Well, you've also got a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon.
You know,
Inevitably.
people
And
in
a
all
lot of
seriousness,
a lot of companies jumping on the bandwagon. And when they go bust,
people actually
it'll be
need
solved.
to count themselves exceptionally lucky that they live in a day and age where they are so free to make these kind of nonsensical choices. Because I'm telling you, even as recently as 30 years ago, there are some people who genuinely would have been locked up for their own sanity, for their sake.
Oh, I have no doubt about it.
I don't think people realize that.
Some of this behavior is unhinged. It is mental illness on a vast scale. Mental illness fanned and supported by, I don't know why the media haven't just said, shut up about this. This is not. This
Some
could
of
have
us
been
have,
stopped.
excuse me.
Yeah, but so much of this could have been prevented and not been said, yes, you're right.
So do you know there was you know what I was saying about this other place that I work, and again I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to identify.
No, I understand that.
But there is a chap who works there, and he is a chap, by the way, who shoves on a dress and tries to identify as female. And I won't give into it. I absolutely refuse. I'm not having any of it. They can discipline me. They can do whatever the hell they want. I'm not interested at all. And to tell you why I'm not interested is because above all else, do you know what my core is? I consider myself to be a feminist, you know. I'm very, very passionate about women's rights because I can't stand the fact we live in a day and age where women are still not paid the same as men.
No, it's a disgrace.
It's
a disgrace.
That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And don't anyone dare say that a man can't do a woman's job and vice versa. I don't get it. Really, really don't understand that. But let's put that to one side, right? So this chap has, in the past, has had a real go at me, right? Said, you misgendered me. I'm not a man. I identify as a woman. I said, well, I'm sorry. I don't respond to that. I absolutely don't recognize that at all.
What did he come back and say after that?
He said, that's so rude. He said, how could you do that? He said, you're misgendering me. He said, please don't do that. And I said, it's not about misgendering you. With respect, you are the one who's misgendered yourself. And I said, and I'm afraid that I don't give into that. So it's very simple. I will refer to you by your name, but that's as good as it gets. So in other words, now, if I refer to this individual, I say by their name, by his name. I don't mean their name as in I'm not giving him a pronoun. I'm just saying it's his name. But
don't go into deep. Don't tell me what it is. My question is this, Phil. The name to which this colleague of yours, is it a man's name or a woman's name?
So this is the interesting bit. Curious enough, actually, the name itself is of I'm guessing a foreign origin because I don't actually recognize it as a name I've ever heard before. And I believe that it is associated as a man's name in the country of origin. But curiously, this chap has now tried to go around calling himself by a woman's name. And again, I don't respond to that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, there was something that I don't normally quote Miriam Margolyes because I don't care very much for her. But the reason why I'm quoting this is actually because I think it highlights the stupidity around this debate. She said once, I used to be very proactive about pronouns as well and saying, no, you're not a she, you're a he. And you're not they or them, you're a he or she, because it doesn't make grammatical sense. And then she said she realized she'd got it wrong. I wish she'd realized she got other things wrong. But anyway,
that's never going to happen.
She realized she got that wrong because she said, what's the difference if it makes someone happy? And needless to say, when she said this in front of an audience, the audience ruptured into applause. And I thought, but no, I'm perfectly sure there are many things that would make people happy. It doesn't stop it being wrong. You know, a psychopath would probably be very happy killing somebody, but it doesn't mean it's right. So the point is that we don't always do stuff just because it makes us happy. We do it because it's the difference between right and wrong. And if this generation is so arrogant and so unbelievably stupid that it is going to change the course of history for so many different factors of life to the most irreparable degree, I think it's something to be ashamed of, not something to be proud of. And I'm afraid that pronouns is just one example of that. But, the arrogance as well surrounding all sorts of business, such as wokery. And it's just things that have been tradition for years. I've been very vocal about this as well. And I'm sorry, there are going to be some people who are not happy about this. And you probably, RK, are going to be one of them. I've always had reservations about same-sex marriage. I always have done, and I always will do. I can't help it, right? Because for so many years, I was brought up to say marriage is between a man and a woman. But that doesn't mean to say, right, for the record, that I don't believe civil partnership should be absolutely akin to marriage. Absolutely akin. It should be neck and neck in terms of rights. Of course it should. If someone's with their partner for life, that
So
partner absolutely
what
has
is
to
it
have
you
those
don't?
rights.
What is it you have the problem with then? Because it seems to me you're saying the same thing.
Because ruining tradition, right? It's the arrogance of saying it's this generation that is going to shatter centuries of tradition. That's what I'd have a real issue with. It's pure arrogance to say that we're the ones who do it.
I'll come back to that because there's 2 points I want to make. 2 of my cousins are gay.
Mm-hmm.
One female, one male. They're both married. And they're like the loveliest, and I adore them with all my heart. And one was married in America. I didn't see that. And I went to the wedding. It was like the best wedding I've ever made. It was seriously the best wedding. It was the most fun. It was great. And it was lovely. And I love these people. And they're very happy. And I don't have a problem. But I've always said, and this is my caveat, there should be no difference if they decide to get divorced through the complete shit that everybody else goes through when you get divorced, right? You don't get a get out of jail card free and collect £200 as you go around. No, you're going to go through exactly the same crap as everybody else who got divorced because it's ghastly. That's number one. Let's look at it slightly. Let's take a helicopter view of why so much of this has happened. What do the enemies of the West want to achieve? This isn't me wearing a tinfoil hat. Remember, America is a very new country. They're still finding their way. I know that sounds patronizing, but it's true. France has been going for thousands of years. We've had the Tower of London in one position for 1,000 years. America, founded a couple of hundred years ago, basically. So it's a very young country. What do the enemies of the West want to do? Well, they want to destabilize it. One of the ways that you destabilize it, rather than dropping the Tsar bomb on New York City or something horrific, is you destroy the family unit. That's what you do. One of the quickest ways to destabilize a country is you destroy the family unit. Now, if it sounds like, an episode out of Miss Marple, or something from the 40s and 50s, whereby you had mom, dad, the kids, that's a family unit. So be it. So be it. That being said, one of the reasons that they wanted the family unit is that you're stuck because you've got so many overheads and you've got a mortgage and you've got to work. And if you've got to work, you've got a willing workforce. That's also true. That's also true. But so if you can get ways of completely turning logic and throwing the logic out of the window and letting madness run free, you are way ahead in the game of destabilizing a country. Way ahead. The other way you destabilize it is you let millions of people in who hate you.
Well, who would be silly enough to do that?
Precisely. Obviously, that would never happen. But you understand.
And by the way, in any other day and age, that would be classed as an invasion. I'm just saying.
Well, you got millions of people flooding through Europe, which is the West. It is now. Okay, don't know East Germany or anything anymore. You've got millions and millions of people who hate everything about it, despise the inhabitants. I'm not talking about Right. You go into any shop or whatever. Like even my barbers I was talking about. There's a guy from Syria. There's a guy from Iraq. There's a guy from Iran. Everybody's working. Everyone's getting on. Everybody's getting on. I go to that. That's where I go. And they're talking Kurdish, and we're having conversations. Cool as a cucumber. It's fine. Well, I don't speak fluent Kurdish. I speak lemon Kurdish. Anyway, that's not the point. What I'm saying is, I'm
Kurds and Waish.
With little Miss Muffet and her tuffet.
Well, actually, as I say, unless it's lemon curd in Newcastle, then it's way A.
Right. That's very good. So here's my point. If you've got millions and millions of people, what does it do? First of all, they hate the inhabitants. Two, the strain it puts on a country. I'm not talking about the UK, I'm talking about any country. Of social security, of hospitals, of accommodate, all of this stuff. It's all destabilizing. That's what it is. That's what it is.
See, the bottom line is that I think anyone with half a brain can deduce that we have been under attack from several different angles for many, many years. The problem is that we just haven't recognized it. And now
we have recognized it.
Now we're finally waking up. I think more collectively. I know that individually, a lot of people have, but I mean more collectively now, waking up and saying to ourselves, "Oh heck, we might need to do something about it now."
But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Why have people been so? Never forget Angela Merkel, who welcomed with open arms 1 million refugees. 1 million, was leader of the German Communist Youth Party. Never forget that. These things don't happen by accident. Are they regretting that? Jeez, are they regretting it? Sweden, place where I've spent a lot of time. Holy God, are they regretting it? Yeah, just a bit. There is the world of difference. There is the world of difference. When that raving lunatic Idi Amin threw the Asians out and gave them about 4.5 minutes to get the hell out of Dodge, right? And hundreds of thousands of Asians came here, right? What did they do? Assimilated immediately, worked their socks off, and became not just a part of the fabric of society, became a much loved, much admired for their work ethic, admired for their family bonding. There's a world of difference. That's entirely different. And they look round and they go, "Yeah, we like it. We like it here. We're happy here. You know, we've been treated well. We get on." It's not the same thing, and you can't lump it all. You cannot lump it all together. You just can't. It's much more nuanced, but the media will not allow a nuanced discussion. You and I, outside of what we've created, could never have this conversation on mainstream media, the MSM. Never, ever. Could never happen.
That's not true. There's some parts of the mainstream media you can have this conversation.
Really?
Yes. It's a station I work for.
In as blunt a way as we've discussed?
What, the station I work for? Are you joking?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm amazed.
Absolutely, you could.
Would the host allow it?
Depends on the host, I guess.
Well,
it would be challenged. No, it could be challenged, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't be allowed.
I get that. And I would expect you to challenge me and vice versa.
But anyway, look, the bottom line is, whatever anyone thinks, something very unpalatable is happening to the world right now. And totally. I think we have to be ready for some very unpleasant things ahead. But as long as one keeps faith and optimism, I wholeheartedly believe there's no reason why we can't get through the other side eventually. Maybe a bit of a fight for survival along the way. But
you see, you've used the word faith. Who do we have faith in? Because I have faith in not one politician, not one leader. I don't think
it's a case of faith in politicians. You can
then we have to take what? Then the alternative is we take everything into our own hands, and that is anarchy, civil war. You don't want that. We don't want that.
No one wants it, but arguably, Who knows if that's the only way to fix it now? And on that cheery note, I must away. So I'm
I know,
terribly
I
sorry.
know you must. I know you must. You've got lifts to go up and down in, and buttons to press. And I was very impressed. You put up a video the other day. I know you're going of you sitting at the control center of the Starship.
Oh
Enterprise.
yes,
That was excellent.
Thank you. I just thought it would no, because a lot of people say like, "What do you do as a producer?" I thought I better show you.
Yes,
but anyway,
it's not you running around with a newspaper going, "Please read this." Phil, bless you for joining us as always.
Bye.
I know you got to go. And he's back, but he's gone. But he's back again. No, now he's gone. So, yeah, I mean, much heavier than we normally get. But why should we shy away from these things, you know? If we can't talk about it here, where are you going to talk about it? Where are you going to talk about it? Some of you will agree what we've said. Some of you will be foaming at the mouth. That's okay. It's life, isn't it? The difference with the Midday show is we can vehemently disagree, but we're mature enough to say, do you know what? We'll agree to disagree, shake hands and go and have a drink or have a cup of coffee. That's okay. That's how grown-ups work. That's how grown-ups treat each other. You know, you have to punch each other in the face or threaten to cut your head off because you don't agree with what they're saying. What Phil was touching on is what I fear. Because whatever happens in America in November, forget what's going to happen in July. We know what's going to happen in July. It's a done deal. But in America, whoever wins the election, the losing side are going to go insane. Insane. And the difference, thank God, between the United Kingdom and the United States is that we're not armed to the teeth. We can tut pretty loudly and we can look cross, but we don't go to our spare room and pick up an AK-47 to show that we're in disagreement. That's what it's about. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend. I'm sorry it's been a bit heavy, but you know, that's how life is sometimes, and we're grown-ups and we just have to kind of look at it. I'll be back Monday. We've got a really interesting guest on Monday. It's all about testosterone. Oh, yeah. We are going where the others fear to tread. It's a testosterone expert coming on to talk about the loss of testosterone and what it means. It's a big deal. So I'll see you Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the sunshine if it's still sunny. Try and stay out of trouble. Bye-bye. See you Monday.